When you don't maintain and periodically service your brake calipers, this is what happens to your rubber seals. You saw how badly the rubber seals got damaged, and the result would be spongy brakes, poor brake bite, or even brake failure, which will eventually result in an accident or sometimes even death, which is a no-no any given day. So let me show you how to service and rebuild your brake calipers from the scratch. So any motorcycle below 600cc, doesn't matter which brand or what cc, if you have brake calipers or disc brakes, you can follow this complete guide and rebuild your brake calipers as well. So all your KTMs, Royal Enfields, Triumphs, Bajaj, Suzuki, Honda, Yamaha, any motorcycle, you can benefit from it. As long as you have a single pot caliper at the rear and a dual pot caliper at the front, you can definitely learn from this video and service your bike too. Now if your motorcycle is above 600cc, then the picture changes, because then you will be having 4-pot calipers and 2-pot calipers, which would require a complete different video, and I will try to make one if I find my hands on those. Welcome to Room Brothers, to the next episode of our Suzuki Gixxer project, where we are modifying, customizing, restoring and servicing top to bottom a 150cc motorcycle and trying it to bring to 2026 standards. So I'll be replacing all the rubber seals, dust hoods, pistons and nipple pins, you name it, we are replacing it. The only thing that we are not replacing is the casting or else the brake caliper itself. That's the only part that's gonna go back. Everything else we are replacing with the new parts, which are genuinely Suzuki parts. So without any further ado, let's begin. So the thicker one is the rubber seal and the thinner one is the dust seal. This goes inside the caliper and this stays outside the caliper, like this. And same goes with the rear caliper as well. The thicker one goes inside, the thinner one stays outside. So we're going to use silicone grease on all these rubber parts, including the pistons, and that's completely recommended. So this is from Suzuki. Don't use the brown or the red grease that you see in the market. Those are not compatible in these applications. Always use company recommended grease or silicone grease when you are working on your calipers. Just a tad bit, don't apply much. So take the caliper and make sure that the rubber seal grooves are spot on. If you find any debris, clean it properly before installing the rubber seals. So if the camera can pick up nicely, the thicker groove which is inside is for the rubber seal and the thinner groove which is outside is for the dust seal. In goes the rubber seal. Then goes the dust seal. Same on the other side too. Then the second dust seal. Make sure that all the 4 rubber seals are properly seated inside the grooves and there are no abnormal bulges outside. Then take the pistons and apply the silicone grease very lightly on the surface. You don't need much grease. This is just so that the piston can slide in smoothly into the rubber seals, and then gently push it inside. And that's it. Then goes the second piston. If you do as I have shown specifically, you don't have to do much. The pistons can nicely slide in properly and sit flush with the surface, as you can see right here. Now what if you don't have the silicone grease with you? You can absolutely use your brake oil to lubricate the rubber seals and even the piston. Now let's start assembling the rear caliper too. Now I like to inspect and double check all the new parts with the old ones just to make sure that I am fitting the same ones. These are of same dimensions. Looking pretty good. Same goes with the front caliper as well. I have inspected the pistons before I have fitted it. Take the thicker rubber seal and this is going inside first. Then comes the thinner dust seal. Again, make sure that both the rubber seals are seated flush in the grooves and nothing is coming outside abnormally. Then add a tad bit of silicone grease on the outside of the rubber seals so that the piston can slide in nicely. Then take your piston and slide in nicely. Slides in nice and smooth. You don't have to apply any pressure if you install the rubber seals properly and lubricate it properly as shown. That's why I always say anybody can buy any CC motorcycle, but it always takes experience and skill to work on your machines. That's why not every motorcyclist is a biker. And unfortunately, in today's era of social media influencers, everybody is a biker. In today's days of social media, this has become a joke. Now the reason I have changed the piston on both these calipers is you see how the outer part of the piston has corroded. And on top of that, these pistons have been treated very harshly. As you can see, the chunks of metal is literally missing from the insides of the piston. So someone might have tried to hammer it or tried to ply it while removing the pistons during the service. Now if your piston's outer surface is nice and smooth, you don't need replacement. You can use the old pistons. Now these are the part numbers for the piston and the rubber seal kit for reference. Then comes the rubber boots. Again, always inspect the new parts with the old ones. Now this is the prime example of why I replace such parts. This is the new one and this is the old one. Look at how the rubber has expanded over these years, and you can see even the hole has expanded on both sides. That's why rubber degrades over time, so you need proper inspection and maintenance while servicing your motorcycle. Same goes with these two. The older one, the rubber has become a little brittle, while the new one is nice and sturdy. Again, just for reference, this is by 𝗕𝗏𝗶𝗽. I don't know if the camera can catch it or not. Using silicone grease on the rubber parts so that they can slide in nicely into the caliper. Let's replace the rubber boots of the rear caliper as well. Again, inspect the new ones with the old ones just to double check. Now while installing this dust boot, you see these two indents right here. This goes inside of the caliper and on the other side there are no indents. This stays outside of the caliper. The indent side goes this way and stays inside. That's it. And the one that doesn't have the indent stays on the other side. The same goes with the front caliper as well. The indent goes inside and the side that doesn't have the indents stays outside. Replacing the brake bleeder nipples. Again inspecting the new ones with the older ones. As you see, both these bleeder nipples are of different sizes. This is for the front caliper and this one is for the rear caliper. Then the dust cap for the bleeder nipple. Now comes the brackets. This is for the front caliper and this is for the rear caliper. You see these 4 pins right here, these go and fit into those 4 rubber boots we just installed, and these brackets slide in and out when you apply the brakes. That's why these 4 pins need to be properly lubricated, and in my experience a dedicated caliper grease sticks better, stays longer and provides better lubrication than the silicone grease. You can find this online. This is by 𝗥𝗲𝗃𝗶𝗃𝗏. This particular grease is designed to withstand and work at high temperatures. Properly greased. Installing the circlip for the front bracket. Then a tad bit of grease inside these rubber boots as well. Then take the front caliper and the front bracket and then gently slide it along. And when it comes to the end, make sure that you press the bracket so that the rubber boots can lock into the pins. Just like that. And then check the free movement. You see how nice and smooth this is? That's how it should be. Then take the pin for the rear bracket. If your motorcycle support this type of design, then install it nicely. Then take the rear caliper and the bracket and push the 2 pins inside the rubber boots. And again, when it comes to the end, push the bracket so that the rubber boots can properly sit into the pins. Then check the free play of the bracket. Nice and smooth. That's how you know you have done it the right way. Then install the brake pad springs on both calipers. If you are confused in any way, the spring has a direction, so it sits in this way on top of the caliper, and then the brake pads sit on here. Same goes with the rear spring too. Again, the rear spring has this design, so this sits flush on top of the caliper like this. And if you are still confused, there is no other way these springs can fit in any other direction. The manufacturer designs the brake pads in such a way that the pin slides nicely into this, like this. And the same goes with the rear pad as well. The first brake pads goes and sits flush in this way, here and here. Then the second brake pad goes and sits flush in this way. This one locks here. Now the pin slides in gently and nicely. That's it. Then take these pins and install it. Now this is the pin for the rear brake pad. pads, and depending on your motorcycle brand, you may have this design or this design on your calipers. Take the brake pads, insert the pin into the hole. That's it. But before doing so, there is a little rubber o-ring at the end of this pin, and as expected, the rubber started to fall apart and the o-ring literally broke. A little bit of the silicone spray and this slides in nicely. Just a quick tip, always inspect these pins on both the calipers. Check for any abnormal wear and tear or bend in the pin. If you find so, replace these. Now here comes the brake pads. The first brake pad goes and sits flush here and here on both ends. Then the second brake pad goes and sits flush. Now insert the pin by gently holding the brake pads in place. Take the Allen and tighten it. This is the rubber boot that protects the brake pad pin from all the dust and debris on the road. So gently push it inside. New crush washers for both the calipers and the master cylinders. Bolt, then goes the crush washer. Bolt, crush washer. Bolt, crush washer goes to the front master cylinder. Bolt and then crush washer goes to the rear master cylinder. And don't worry, all these bolts and pins will be properly tightened once we fit it onto the motorcycle. Right now, all we are doing here is assembling each and every part and keeping it aside and moving on to the next area of the project. As you guys have seen, we have disassembled, inspected, restored, serviced and put back together the entire brake system. I just want to refresh your memory when it comes to types of lubrications that we have used while putting back together the entire brake system. We have used the silicone grease to all the rubber boots, and then the rubber silicone spray to lubricate and fit all the rubber parts. Then there's a special caliper grease for lubricating the brake brackets and the rubber boots. And then at the last, I'm going to use the anti-seize onto the pins where the brake pads are going to sit so that they can slide smoothly without any hiccups, which I'm going to do while fitting onto the motorcycle. And last but not least, I'm going to replace these rubber brake lines with the steel braided brake lines, which would definitely be an upgrade and a customization and would definitely increase the brake bite and the brake performance. I just would need to find the appropriate sizes and I'll try to show it while fitting onto the motorcycle. Now when you are out there on the road doing 100 and 120 on the highways, you don't want to take any chances when it comes to brakes. Now let me give you a breakdown of how much it has costed me and the total budget that I have spent on this brake system. Now the cost of replacement of all the spare parts have costed me exactly 976 rupees, which is less than 1000 rupees. That's why owning a Japanese motorcycle always has its benefits. Now I have saved the entire labor cost by working on this myself. Then coming to the paint and restoration part, I have used 1 can of Rust-Oleum, which has costed me around 1300 rupees to be exact. Now when you combine it, it roughly comes around 2200 rupees to revive the entire brake system, which is absolutely bonkers when you compare it to any other motorcycle brand in the market. And that's why I always lean towards the Japanese machines, because they are easy on the pocket and they are easy to work on. Now it has taken me around 1.5 hours to assemble these brake calipers, including the shooting part, and 1 hour to assemble these brake master cylinders, including the shooting part. Now most of you guys won't be shooting this and posting it on your social media platforms, so in my experience it would hardly take you half an hour to assemble the brake calipers and 20 minutes to assemble the brake master cylinders. That's how easy and simple it is. You just have to follow the step-by-step process of everything that I have shown in these dedicated episodes, and you will be able to service your entire brake system. Now, the amount of satisfaction and the peace of mind that I get thinking that I have worked on my own machine, treating it like an absolute treasure, is priceless. Then I have polished my skill, experience, and knowledge when it comes to technical stuff. So it's a win-win for me in every area. And that's it for today. As always, ride hard, drive safe, eat healthy, live right, and do good. The mantra of Room Brothers. Peace.